I am Kolton Hanson, and today I'm going to be doing a demonstration on how to use the table saw. So, first I want to talk about some of the basic PPE or personal protective equipment that you need to have whenever you operate the table saw. So the first thing that you always want to have when you're in the shop in general, is going to be safety glasses. Safety glasses are super important when using the table saw because it can throw sawdust up and get in your eyes and anything else, a number of things. So the other thing you want to be careful of is make sure you don't have sleeves that are going to be in your way. If you do, pull them up, get them out of the way. You don't want them to get caught in the blade. Obviously, your general, closed-toed shoes, things like that are good, but those aren't quite as important when running the table saw. So next, I want to talk about some of the safety features that this saw has for it. So for this specific saw, we have the main source of like guards is going to be this main guard, and that guard just covers the blade. It's designed to kind of keep sawdust from coming up and getting everywhere, but it's also designed to keep you, one barrier of protection from your hands as you saw. Another thing in terms of safety that this particular saw has is it has a sensor within the blade that is designed to sense what you are cutting, and also it will shut down if it gets a material that's going to be harmful to the blade, or if it's like your hands or any kind of skin. So the way that works is when your saw is turned on, if you look down here at this light, it starts off as green, and then if you cut things like wood that are okay to be cut on it, it's going to remain green when the material touches it. Whereas if it's something that's metal or skin, like the pliers, when that touches it, your little indicator light's going to flash red. And the reason that is just so that if it senses that, it's going to protect the saw from getting damaged from materials that shouldn't be cut, or the operator from being hurt. Is what it'll do is it'll shut itself down and clamp that blade and stop it from spitting immediately. So there's a couple more features that aren't as much safety, but just for general operation. So there's this bar here, and what it is for is when you snap it down, it shows how high your blade is in relation to your material. So in this case, my blade is high enough for my material because it goes under it. However, if I lower my blade to where the blade's lower, my material won't go through there anymore. That indicates that my blade's not high enough anymore. So the way that you raise and lower your blade, I'll get these out of the way so you can see it. There's a dial down here, and when you turn it to the left, it lowers the blade, and when you go right, it goes back up. So you always want to keep, if you don't have a bar like this, you want to just keep it to where you just see the blade just above the material that you're working on. And that's just so that you're getting maximum efficiency out of your blade. You don't have wasted space. And then also for just an added safety measure, you don't want a bunch of blade up above for you to catch on or hurt yourself if this guard fails or something along those lines. On top of that, you have your dial that lowers and raises it, and then there's a dial on the left side of this particular saw. It's probably in different places on other saws, but it's on this left side of the saw, and it changes the angle of the blade. So when you turn to the right, you're going to change your angle, and then back to the left, you're taking it closer to 0 again, or 90 degrees. So, with that being said, that's actual function of the blade. Then we have our fences. So, with this fence, this is called the rip fence. It's called that because when you cut a board long ways, like you use this one for, that's ripping the board. So this fence goes side to side, it stays mounted all the time, and it's got measurements along the front here, and you can actually set it to the width of the board you want. And this is actually one of the few things that you can really trust on measurements. So if you set it at 6 inches here, you can you can rely on it being a 6-inch cut here. So that's your rip fence. And then the other fence we have is called the miter fence. So the miter fence is for miter cuts, hard to believe. And it's just designed for doing your cuts that come through and you want them at an angle. So what you do is you set it to your angle here, and your rip fence or your miter fence has the numbers on it for your angles. You set it to the desired angle, and you leave your material that you're cutting pressed tightly up against that. In this case, let's pull it back. And then you would just cut it through like so. Now, one important thing to mention when we talk about this fences is you never ever want to use the rip fence and the miter fence together. I know it makes sense that you would put these together to keep it perfectly square, but you don't ever want to do that, because what it can do is it can cause binding in the material and cause it to bind up, and then when you're pushing, you put a little pressure wrong and it binds up in the blade and it can cause blowback. So with that being said, the other thing to remember when using your fences is when your cut is, usually the guideline is less than 6 inches. You want to use your push stick to push your material through, because what it is it's too skinny for you to want to put your hand in this space. It's dangerous between the rip fence and the blade. So how you would do that, and I'll do a demonstration in a minute with the blade running, but you push it through with this hand, keeping downward pressure, and then use your rip stick or your push stick. It's notched like this so that it hooks onto your board and you can put downward pressure, and you just push it through all the way through, and you push it up and out, and then you're going to power down your blade. So now I'm going to do a demonstration. I'll show you how to use both the miter fence, the rip fence, and the push stick. For simplicity's sake, I'm going to leave my blade at the 90 degrees and or 45. And yeah, so for this particular cut, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and cut this board. I want to do a rip cut at 5 inches. So I've came here, I've done my, on my measurement, I've done 5 inches, and I'm going to make sure my arms are down. I'm going to use this tool to make sure that my blade's the proper height. So, again, because my material fits under that board, I know that I'm safe to make this cut. So, I want to remove my material out of the way, power my saw on, and then go ahead and power the blade just by pulling out. Always make sure that the blade is running at full speed before you put your material through the saw. So, I'm going to start, and I'm going to put downward pressure up here, and I'm going to push from the back. Always keeping it flush to the rip fence. Now once I feel that I'm getting close enough to the blade, I want to get my push stick out. I just take it, and I keep it on that side, still putting downward pressure out here. So now that I'm done with my cut, I power down the blade simply by pushing this big stop button. Now, it's really important to remember that you never want to touch your material and go to get your material until your blade is completely stopped spinning. So, now that I know it has, I take my little, I gotta make sure that my deal is up so that my material can come out. I take this side out, and then I finish pushing that through. That should come out to be at 5 inches how it is, because I set it there. Now, I'm going to do a miter cut. Remember, you don't want to use the two fences together. So I'm going to push this out of my way and get it completely out of my workspace. Now, what I want is to just slide it back in this groove. For simplicity's sake, I'm going to leave my miter fence at 0 degrees. Make sure that this is tightened down so that my angle doesn't change. Normally, I would have a width that I would want in mind for my cut, and I would have had that marked. But for this demonstration, I'm just going to make pretty much a random cut. So, same idea. Make sure that you're constantly pulling back against this fence so that you don't have your work getting loose. Downward pressure and pulled against the fence with your hands. So again, I start the saw, making sure that the blades got all the way up to full speed before I'm pushing my work through. Now, I start going through, always keeping my work on the left, my hands on the left side of the blade. And I push that through, and again, I push the stop button to power it down. Again, you have to remember to let the blade stop all the way before you pull your work out. And once again, obviously, don't know the exact width, but that, if you had that marked, that's how you would do that. And so that is pretty much everything that you need to know when running the table saw, from PPE to the different tools that it takes to run it. Safety features are, having guards and the sensors. Not all saws have that. I forgot to mention that earlier. And then also just the general safety of letting blades get full speed and stopping. Thanks for watching.